Hey, friends. This is Martine Williams, and I am obsessed with all things mompreneur life and helping you to remix your priorities, your habits, your mindsets, and yes, even your relationships so that you can build a successful business without losing yourself in the process. I'm also obsessed with the color turquoise and lyrics of the 80s and 90s, but that's beside the point. Girlfriend, you don't have to hustle 24/7, 365 and continue to sacrifice your health, your relationships, and your sanity to be a successful mompreneur. As a small town girl living in a lonely world to a six-figure mompreneur, I am here to teach you how. There is a better way, and this podcast is your one-stop shop for all of the how-tos, the encouragement, the life hacks, the success tips, and of course, a little side of tough love. This is the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. So let's do this. Hey friends, you are in for a treat today with my Turquoise Talk guest. So excited for you to hear from Dr. Liz Jenkins. We talked about, how to rekindle intimacy as a couple, both inside and outside of the bedroom, communication. It's just a really, really fruitful conversation around marriage and mompreneur life and all the things. So be sure to listen to this episode, take notes, and connect with Dr. Liz. So a little bit about Dr. Liz. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified relationship coach. She helps single, powerful women reclaim their self-love so that they attract true, healthy love. So if you're single and listen to this, yep, she's here for you too. And she also helps reconnect couples to save marriages and partnerships. With over 75,000 plus hours of focused time working with women and couples inside her Smart Single Ladies VIP coaching and Reignite VIP couples coaching programs, she's become a trusted expert for quickly identifying your unique path for success in your self-love and relationships. I love the unique path. I'm all about that and defining what is right for you and right for your family and right for your relationships and right for your business. And you do have unique strengths and unique challenges and a unique path for all of those areas. So today's a great episode. I know you're going to love it as we continue this February series on couples and marriage. Just so excited for you to hear from her. So let's do this. Well, hey friends, and welcome back to the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. I'm so excited to continue our conversation this month. I love to talk about, the month of February, bringing in experts on relationships and really just kind of talking about marriage. And I'm super excited about today's Turquoise Talk guest, Dr. Liz Jenkins. So thank you. Do you want me to call you Dr. Liz, Dr. Jenkins? What do you prefer?
I go by hey you, Dr. Liz or Liz, just okay. Fine. No problem.
Okay. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show and kind of share your wisdom with us. So can you just let everybody know a little bit about you, your family, and how you got started in this business?
Sure. It's been a long time. I became licensed as a marriage family therapist back in 86. So I've been in the field. And then when I got my doctorate, and along the way, which was actually kind of in that same timing, dated and married my husband. So we recently celebrated our 35th wedding anniversary.
Wow. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a while. It's been a fun while. And then you scatter in a couple daughters, and it's really starts to remind me about how flexible I needed to be on my family life and what opportunities would be best for them. I guess we've always, my husband and myself, sort of been the entrepreneur. So he's had his business, and I went from working in running hospitals, psychiatric hospitals and things, to my own private practice. And then as you had kids in, just continue to morph and shift and change. And so it's been a wonderful experience. I think also as being a woman, and my focus was originally with women and children, I started seeing the impact that choosing well and choosing wisely in the beginning of our world and of our dating and our marriages was so significant. And the decisions that parents made were really impacting the children, whether kids were in long commutes and in daycare for a long time, or had parents that were, or a single parent even, that were very stressed and stuff. So I started working with them, and then branched over into the certified coaching. And so I'm a relationship coach or a connection coach. And so my goal is to have women and men, they want from it, connect with themselves and really find themselves and find out what they're passionate about. How do you create balance when it's really, that's almost like an impossible word, right? To be running all these things is kind of like more, where did I tip my energies for the day, and knowing that I got to go back over here, not losing ourselves, but also for couples, so that they could have the right skills and the right strategies in place to evolve as they age and as their family grows and as the life demand goes. So that's been my passion, is really to work with couples to fill in the gaps of what you may not have or may not know.
Right.
Our strategies and tools for managing today's relationship.
Do you find that you work with more like the younger couples and kind of helping them get that, like you said, kind of right start, or are you working with all ages and stages with couples?
Thanks. That's a good question. Now what I'm really seeing is that we have some very, very astute younger couples, that they're realizing the value of getting in there and working with a coach on, and let's get it right before we go down that long road. Because the average statistically is that people spend about 7 years doing it themselves at home, or, now we have social media, or you read a few books, but we really don't have today's tools. We have things that maybe we learned growing up. We learned watching our parents, or we rely on friends and say, hey, what do you do? So we're kind of piecemealing it. And so I have the younger set that's really astute and just saying, we're going to get it right, and we're going to invest in ourselves. And then I have the long-term ones. I'm working with couples that have been 25, 30 years as well, that are saying, we've gone astray. This life transition, this empty nesting, this retirement, illness, whatever it might be, is not working for us. And so we still want to finish out that second chapter in our life, or third or fourth, whatever it is for people. Right. But we really want to make it right. And so the gamut is there, from engaged to or dating to long-term commitment, and it's not looking too good. So
yeah. I love that. I think my husband and I are also super passionate about marriage, and we've had, friends and couples that we've kind of coached over the years. And it's like this, waiting till you're sick to go to the doctor instead of doing some preventative work right up front. And okay, these are the things that we value. These are the things that are important to us, the two of us, not what everybody else is saying, but the two of us. And I'm curious to know, like, do you see like a trend, or is there a pattern with these are like the number one or number two issues you see coming up, no matter what stage they're in their relationship, that you can work people with?
Right. Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you and your hubby are like passionate about marriage and see the value in it, and coaching it along. And I think there's less stigma nowadays, and there's more opportunities, like through the coaching, where we focus on strengths, not necessarily like years dissecting the problem. That I'd say communication is a big one, or lack of, with the conflict that tied in there. So it's like here's a glass of communication with a splash of conflict. And it's been mixed a little heavy on the conflict. Okay. As well as intimacy. When we go from dating, stuff like that, everything's kind of fresh. And then as we've been with each other and we're still wearing the same ratty pajamas, 10 years in, the intimacy can fade a little bit.
Right. But throw some kids in the mix, and for sure, right? You throw in an exhausted mama and exhausted dad, from career, and mom doing with the kids. It can be challenging. It can be challenging.
Oh yeah, the mom's dilemma. And I'm all touched out, right?
Yeah.
I'm nursing, I'm holding, I'm doing
Right.
this. I'm still typing, sending
Right.
something, or trying to do the job. And oh, just dinner. And like I'm done. There is not one part of my body that hasn't been held on, touched, hung on,
Right.
begged. So
Right.
yeah, it's very real, and it's important for women to recognize that is a very real emotional and physical, mental drain on our souls. It's not us. We aren't doing something wrong.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah. And I will say I've experienced it and I've seen it firsthand when, really trying to rekindle, the intimacy. And it's almost like it's accepted that this is just the way it is right now. Like this is like you're normal. I had a doctor tell me like you're normal that you feel this
Mhm.
way, which I in my mind went to, okay, well, it's normal, but that doesn't make it right for me to
Mhm.
not be showing the intimacy and not be wanting to be involved and, all of those things. And I hear that in some of the conversations I've had with friends and with
Mhm.
people and clients that I've coached that, well, this is a season, right? And this is a phase and this is
Mhm.
where I'm at. But I think intimacy is super important, like you said, intimacy and communication. So like if when you're working with your clients, how do you help them rekindle that intimacy as a couple, like inside and outside of the bedroom? Because we know it starts before the bedroom.
Oh
If
yes,
you're not feeling connected before, you're not going to feel connected when you get there. So
Mm-mm.
what would you say to someone who that's how she feels right now? And maybe, her goal for 2023 is to create that intimacy again, that even though she feels like she's all touched out, she still needs that. She knows deep down
Mhm.
inside she still needs that. How do you help her rekindle that?
Right. Well, all good points. And like I said, we really do need that. And maybe we need it where the touch is coming to us instead of
Right.
instead of we're being touched and we're touching, but it's where it's always giving that we need to receive and we need to feel like we're their best friend or spouse or a partner's best friend and they value and respect us and find us exciting. So I love that you're kind of debunking one of the myths or that we normalize
Mm-hmm.
well, this is what you get when you have, two toddlers or you have three elementary age kids and they're climbing into bed and things like that. Yes and no. Yes, okay, you're not an anomaly. That
Right.
this is to be expected as parents. But does that child maybe need to continue to stay in your bed the whole aging in, or can you do things different? And can you say, okay, I can be a loving parent, but I can also say, I need something too. So we
Mm-hmm.
put up some boundaries and some different rules. I think the first thing for rekindling intimacy is realizing and recognizing the power of one. That means us, we can make significant changes, and it doesn't have to be work, and we don't have to be the one that is always doing things and always, fixing it.
Mm-hmm.
The humans are systems and we're in packs. And so anytime you disrupt that system in this particular way, this relationship, this marriage, like doing something deliberate, one small thing deliberate, you can start to shift the attention, the energy, the focus of each other. So I always say start outside the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really, really. And if you're in a place where there hasn't been any physical intimacy or really, much coming and going, you might want to start way back on the finish line. So it may
Right.
be, catching them something good, giving them a compliment, smiling.
Mm-hmm.
When we get into long-term relationships, we tend to drop some of our manners. The
Mm-hmm.
please, the thank you, the, the getting out of the car and one's already heading towards Home Depot. Like wait. That's okay. Just shut the car. I locked the door.
Right. Right. I know. Right. Hey, I'm back here. Thank you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So go back to this, and true, it may be their job to take out the trash, or it may be our job to feed the animals. I just fed the animals this morning, so I'm just going to
Right.
say that. That's good. Get up and feed them all their food. But it doesn't take much, and it's free, and it makes the other person feel recognized and valued. But when you say, "Hey, thank you so much for let's say taking care of the animals, letting them out, or I appreciate you taking the trash out. It was certain. It's the little things that have the big impact. So as we start to shift our focus and we're looking at catching them doing good instead of doing wrong, if we're saying please or thank you, if we are applying some kind of, maybe it's a hug, maybe it's a kiss, maybe it's one of those old playful things that you guys used to do in the early days that was fun and teasing. Do start there. You're creating an atmosphere. You're starting to create the environment that invites them into that space to showing up more romantic, intimate outside the bedroom. And so I guess that's one of the tips too, is if you don't know where to start, because ladies out there, if you don't know where to start, go back to the early days when you were dating, when you were fun, when you had the butterflies. What were you guys doing for fun?
Yeah.
Because that's going to be a place where you could start as well. If you're doing these little daily habits, and it's all about habit stacking, and then start thinking about what was the fun stuff, because that's going to kick in the little memory banks of your relationship, and you guys are going to bond and start playing again.
Yeah.
Life's got a lot of work, so the couples need to play some too.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with that. Just having some fun. And, one of the things that I had to do, and it really wasn't, I mean, we do this, we schedule in our date nights, and now it's just become habit, right? But if you haven't been scheduling in time, it seems, for me, it was like, well, that's not spontaneous. That's not sexy. That's not, why do I how horrible of a wife am I that I have to actually like schedule it in? But if it is new, would you not agree? Like, even though it's not sexy and it's not, mysterious, it's going to get done if it gets scheduled in. And if you're going from nothing and you're trying to do these little consistent things, you may have to put them on your calendar at first, and don't feel bad about that or feel shamed about that. Just do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I have a freebie that I offer people and give out, but it's my couples connection checklist.
Oh,
and
I love
it
that.
is just that. So there's 3 daily things. I've already mapped it out for people, and then they can modify it. There's 3 daily things, 3 weekly things, and then 3 monthly things, so that you stay connected. Because, like you said, scheduling the date night, scheduling intimacy is huge. If it isn't on the calendar, other things get filtered in there, and other non-urgent things, get shifted over there, or like, oh, well, we were going to go to the movies, but now we have X, Y, or Z happening, so we can't do that. And so I really love that you're putting it on there. That's actually being really sexy. I'm being very deliberate. I am wanting to spend time with you, and you're wanting to spend time with me. So, kudos to that. And another thing I guess that I see is that being deliberate about when we do talk, we do communicate. Oftentimes I see couples where it's like the ship's passing,
right?
And as we're passing in the hallway, and one's got kids, or one's on their way to a Zoom meeting, kind of thing. Right. We're hollering out things, or we're commenting, and so there's no eye contact. We haven't stopped. We haven't paused. We're just 2 busy commuters in the hallways of our home. So then when something big comes up, bad or good or concerning, we don't have a forum or process to talk about it. And so that's where the conflicts come up too, is that we haven't spent time just touching base with each other, bringing each other up on speed, and be able to sit back comfortably with one another and talk about good things as well as bad things. When we sit down and talk, we're already anticipating, what did I do wrong today? It's got to be something type of thing. So those monthly touch bases can be fun. Just like a little State of the Union. Where are we? How are we doing? And not sweeping things under the rug.
Yeah. Or saving them for date night, because who wants to go on a date night and talk about all your problems? I mean, I know you may be thinking, well, I've got his undivided attention for 2 hours, but I guarantee you, if that's what the 2 hours entails, he's not going to want to go on another date with you. You didn't do that when you were dating before you got married. You didn't talk about all your problems.
No. Awesome point. Yeah. So when you're out there and you're on the date night, if you can't think of something other than what the kids need, who's grown out of what, and how somebody's not doing well in school, and we've got a parent teacher conference, or we've got, this thing, if and that's legit. I mean, those are really the housekeeping things that we talk about. But take them off for the date night type of thing. And if you don't know, there's tons and tons of fun questions. Just Google on the internet, get some questions, get back to being curious about each other, and not just like, oh, I know what she's going to say. She's going to, type of thing. I don't even need to ask her anymore. I'm just going to do it. And so like, no, we want to go back. That's one of the early things, right? When we were dating, we were curious. We were, we would wait with bated breath of what they were going to say.
Right. And you were dreaming together, you were dreaming about things you wanted to do and accomplish and places you wanted to go. And you, like you said, there are so many free resources, or even not. I mean, a little investment in getting a little card set with questions for date night. I mean, what's the value of your marriage? I mean, let's invest a little.
Let's be real. Right.
Let's be real. I mean, we invested in getting our hair done, which probably costs way more than that little card set you're going to get to, invest in your marriage. But
absolutely,
the thing I love about the scheduling piece for me is, and I know the listeners can probably relate to this, is as a mompreneur, you do have the mom hat and you have the business hat and you have the friend hat, and we have all of these roles, right? And these identities. And for me, it takes me a little bit of time to transition into that other role. So to just go from, mom into now I need to put on my wife hat, and feel sexy and do all this. It takes me a little bit of time to do that. And so by scheduling it, however long it's going to take me to get there, I know this is the time that I'm blocking out to invest in my marriage. So if I need to, I don't know, get a new outfit, or if I need to listen to some type of music or whatever, I can get my mindset shifted from mom to wife.
Right.
It's just been super helpful for me. And I remember even sharing that with my husband one night. He came home and from work, and I was, cleaning the kitchen, and I told him, I said, I just need your help, like helping me to transition from mom and businesswoman into wife. Whether that's give me a neck massage or just sit down and connect with me with your words. Like, I need that transition. I can't just hop from one to the other in 2.2 seconds. Sometimes we have to, right? But for that intentional time for our date night, it's important for me to do what I need to do to get prepared for that. So I can show up the best that I can, right? As a wife. And it's kind of like preparing for the game. You have to put your reps in and put your practice in and get your mindset right and deal with whatever maybe concerns that you have. Like, just like you said, be willing to put those aside for that night. Just try to really focus on the fun that you want to have on the date.
Well, I love that you knew what you needed, and you made that request. You didn't make him guess. You didn't sit and stew on it like, can't he see I'm still here in the kitchen cleaning this dirty stove, and he's already ready to go? That's, so you asked, and he said, sure. And that in itself becomes intimate. When you're in your spouse, you hear it, you share a concern, they're up for the game kind of thing, and they respond and they help with that transition. And it also just helps them also recognize that we don't flip on and off like a switch many times. You also brought up a point that I see, like, being with, as entrepreneurs, our business is oftentimes always in our head, right? And so it's, as much as it's hard to step away from the kids, stepping away from our business and our cell phones and our inventory of what we've got to do is really key. And so when you're on the date nights, turning the phone over or putting it on silent, depending on the age of your kids and the level of accessibility they need to. But it's a real shame when I go and I see couples, both heads are down in, and it's a nice place, and it looks like they look like they're just the two of them, or even a whole family. I've seen a whole family with heads down in cell phones and not chatting with each other. Like, wow, times have changed. But maybe some of your listeners are also have spouses or partners that are also entrepreneurs or own their own businesses. And I think it's just an important, like, pin drop for couples that do work together on the same job or the same business to also put that off the agenda for the date night. This is not time to be talking about which subcontractors we're bringing in and what tile samples we chose that day for the, say for a home builder or something like that. Those are the time to put it aside, and if that needs to be addressed, then you set up meetings around that, but it's not in the date night meeting agenda.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of what we've been talking about is, all communication. And you said that was another kind of one of the bigger issues, among couples. And so if communication has just been really shut down, or one or both are just feeling that disconnection and not really knowing how to start that communication process again, how to get past the surface level stuff and really connect, what would you say, or how could you, what would you say to someone who's listening, who's like, I know we need to communicate more. I just don't know where to start in doing that.
Needing to communicate more, but needing to communicate well, I think is going to be key. Because if we're communicating well, like you were able to with your husband, and you said, I need some help here. I want to make this transition. I want to enjoy date night. I need some skin in the game here. I need help. You communicated, and you communicated well. He heard you, and he responded. I think that for many of the couples, they've communicated, but they didn't have the strategies or the skills, or their partner didn't catch on and didn't rise up to it. So that's part of what has us shutting down. It's like, I've tried talking to them.
Yeah.
Like talking to a wall.
Yeah.
They don't X, Y, or Z. So we want to just kind of go back to the basics is really where I like to start with couples. I want to have them, I want to build a sense of success in them. I speak, I express feelings, I get vulnerable, it's safe, they hear me, that type of, instead of the failure one. And so let's go back and we review conflict styles, and we'll look at if criticism or judgment shows up in their marriage, and how. If the defensiveness or explaining everything shows up. And that's a big one for a lot of us. Me, I'm always like over explaining. And it came from, I thought, like, certainly if I explained myself, they would know my position, and all the bad stuff would go away. Yeah. But what I didn't know back then, because I didn't have the strategies or tools, is that before I tell them the details, I first needed to acknowledge their feelings.
Yeah.
And that's going to be one of my key things with people. Before you go off on all these tangents, first look at your partner and see how they're feeling, and acknowledge that they must be frustrated, or discouraged, or a little, or upset or sad, or whatever it might be. When you touch on someone's emotion, that is huge. They feel understood, and they're more open and appreciated. And then the conversations can go. And there's also things like contempt. This is like verbal, nonverbal stuff that we don't even realize. We eye roll, we huff, we cross our arms, we do other things. And so helping folks understand what kind of conflict styles show up. And then just the basic physiology of when we get flooded, when we go from calm and zen to feeling like we're under attack, we go to that fight, flight, or freeze. And that even though we're standing there and we're physically there, mentally we're not able to have a legitimate, valid conversation. We've gone back to the reaction part of our brain. And so the value of taking breaks and taking time out. So we do a lot of skill building at first, and just going back to the basics. Not all couples need all those, but sometimes it's just one area. And if they identify it, they can quickly fix it. The other part is, if you haven't been very connected and you're trying to start this back up again, say start small and start with how you're feeling, not the list of all the things that they've done wrong. When you're like, when you turn into a concern. If I'm telling my husband, you never take out the trash, those are words that start, why don't you remember more often? Why do I have to tell you? Why puts the other person on it? If I go back to, for me, it's like, maybe it's just me, but I feel like the trash has been sitting there. We got to be smelling it. Or, if we start with how that impacts us, our partners and our spouses are more likely to give or do something for us, because they're not under attack, and it gives them a chance to have a quick win, right? All I got to do to make Liz happy is take this trash out right now. Cool. You got it. I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, addressing the feelings, because then you feel seen. you feel heard, and it's a humbling, it's coming to the relationship with a humble attitude of, I always tell my kids and, my husband and I are real big on we're a team, and we work together as a team. We make decisions together as a team, and, we want to build each other up and be honest with each other as well. But,
right.
Remaining humble, knowing that, what, I'm not perfect either. I don't have it all together. I know there's things that I'm doing probably that, are letting you down, but I love that you said that to start with, how you're feeling and not the whole, well, you did this and you didn't do that. And because it immediately puts a wall up. Right. It would put a wall up for me, and it would put a wall up for anybody, so just kind of put yourself in their shoes. No one wants to be accused of anything.
I know.
We want to work together to make this better. And this is some things we need to kind of address. And
yeah. And then shifting it over to, if you're going to do you want to lead the pack, when we talked about the power of one, we could start with how you're feeling and then leave space and ask, how are they feeling? Invite them into sharing as well. And oftentimes, they'll may lead out with an attack, and then it's like, and so then we teach them how to stop that in the moment. Say, I understand you're frustrated, but instead of attacking me with the user, it would help me if you just told me how you're feeling. What am I doing or not doing that has you feeling that way, or what's going on? And when we do that, again, we're mirroring and mimicking some of the things that we had in the early years, where we were open to listening. We were open to hearing their perspective. Sometimes we hung on their last words, right? Because we're so head over heels. We want to get back to that energy. There's a reason why the two of you chose each other. And we can get back there, and we can rediscover it with a different flavor of how of the couple as you've matured into.
Yeah. So a question that just came up in my mind is, so we're having this discussion, and you're telling them how you feel, and they either don't understand it. They don't see the same, you're not seeing eye to eye on that. And so, or we use, well, this is just the way I am.
Yeah. Take it or leave it.
Right. This is just the way I am. You married this, right? This is just how I am. Like, what is someone supposed to do with that kind of reaction? Like, how do you handle that? Because that just feels like, well, they're thinking the way they're thinking, and they're not going to even come to meet me in the middle here. So what do you do at that point? I know someone's listening and they're like, this all sounds great, but I've had this conversation, and my spouse just either is acting like he doesn't care, he doesn't get it, and he's just continuing on doing the things that I've already addressed with him. So, and he's just saying it maybe she might be saying, this is the way I am. It works both ways. I'm not just saying it's all the man's fault.
No, it doesn't, Martine. No, it doesn't. Don't let them know that. Yes. And that's good, because the first instinct or reaction most of us would probably have is like, well, this is not good, right? And a few other curse words in our head, kind of thing, like, this is bullshit. I'm not gonna do this. We always get to that type of thing. I think that the first thing is not to go forward at that. If they say, well, this is it. This is, you married me, tough, tough luck. You fell in love with me. This is what you got. You knew I liked football and a season, or you knew I was a gamer, and whatever it might be. I also like with the holidays coming, it's like, I always travel to my family, and for holidays. And so, oh gosh, yes, but a 5-hour drive was great before we had kids, dogs, cats, and things like that. So before you go full on attack, maybe it's time to just to step back a second. Let's just take a break a second. Let's just slow, calm down. Give me some time to think about it, because in that moment, people are getting elevated, and we're starting to get back into our corners for the fighting time.
Yeah.
Realizing that the act of getting back into the trenches is going to escalate a fight. And if you want to your objective is not to win or lose. You want them to understand your perspective and to see if you can get a shift or have them make changes. So to do that, we need to get calm. When we step back and get calm, what I would love for you guys to do is just write down on a piece of paper what you were fighting about. Okay. What were you in that moment fighting? Because oftentimes we're fighting apples to oranges. Maybe this particular time I asked that we could stay home for the holidays. And they said, no, we always travel and we always do this, we always do that. So you're upset. I'm not trying to trump anything, but let's say I want to start a holiday tradition for our family. So I'm fighting for a future tradition for our family. I write that down. And they may be fighting because mom and dad are going to be disappointed with them and they're going to hear it because they're not coming down. So he's fighting to avoid a conflict with his parents. When you come back, it's the first to show this is what we're fighting. This is what I was upset about. That's going to put a lot of traction and clarity that no wonder the two of you couldn't come to an agreement, right? Because he's disappointing his parents, and you're trying to establish a new tradition for the family. That's where you're going to get some traction there. The other, I want to say, we talked about normalizing things, is that statistically speaking, successful couples, and this is successful couples, guys, 69% of the stuff that they fight about is not going to have a solution at that moment. All right. And so when we know, like, okay, is this one of those 69% kind of things? All right. But we do know that 31% we agree on. So those are our successes. Those are our wins. And our goal is to keep moving some of these things that we're stuck on over to the list, recognizing that in reality, we're not going to get all of these on our list to agree with. We're two different people. We come from different backgrounds. We have different preferences, and that's all good. And so we learn, how do we live with things that we agree that we're going to disagree on?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. I love what you just said about also, and I kind of took it like, you're not going to get it. It's not going to be resolved like right there in the heat of that moment. Because I am definitely a fixer, and I like to I'm solution oriented, and I want to get the quickest solution as possible. But sometimes that causes me to react versus responding. Right. So I'm reacting because I want to nip it in the bud, and I do it more with my kids than I do with my husband, but like, let's just nip that disrespect right in the bud, like right now. And my husband's just really good at just sitting back and kind of like observing. And then chill on that, right, and then going to them when he can actually respond and not react, where I'm quicker to do that. I know someone listening is totally laughing right now. They can totally relate to that.
No, I'm right in there. I want it fixed. I want it resolved. One, it's on my to-do list now, right? They've been disrespectful. Got to get that off the list. One off the list. Good Lord. But two, there's this anxiety that I want to fix it, and I want it all to go back to Zen, and and the sooner I get them to realize that you don't talk to mom that way, you don't talk to dad that way, type of stuff, the better we are. And so it's my own anxiety or inner urgency to put things back in place that can escalate a situation, instead of giving both people, or in this particular, the whole family, an opportunity to recenter their focus and get to a better place, so we can have a conversation instead of it being forced on it. So yes, in the moment, if we can realize that, hey, this is one of those things, I've pushed a little bit and I've pushed a little bit, and they're coming back stronger. It's time to say, hey, let's just take a break. Let's put a pin in it, and let's talk about it later. Maybe we're hungry. Maybe it's 11:30 at night and we've had a long day, and now we're just talking about it. Maybe we're starting to pack up the car, and I'm going like, let's just change plans, whatever it might be, whatever it might be. And sometimes since we're talking with, business women and things, sometimes I put the analogy in there. It's like, if you're sending like an email to a business person, business coworker, or something like that, and they keep coming back in the email and they're not getting it, and like, no, I don't want this, I want that. And so then, so you're like on the second, third, fourth email or text, and they aren't getting it. It's time to stop communicating in that fashion. It's time to pick up the phone in this particular case, or if you're in a, office, get up from your desk and go to their desk and have a face-to-face, eye-to-eye conversation. Start with, I don't think I'm explaining myself what I want. Start with I. Not you don't get it. I have been
Yeah.
sending you 4 emails. All right.
It's such a
So
good point. Yeah.
yeah. So we apply, if you're feeling that, you probably felt that kind of confusion
Mhm.
in emails or frustration. It happens at home. So instead of just continuing that same loop,
Mm.
get off the phone or pause. Can we pause the television a second? I don't think I'm explaining myself correctly. I don't think I'm explaining in a way so you can understand. Maybe we go back to the holiday tradition one. I love your family. It's nothing to do with your family, but I want to start traditions for ourselves. I
Mhm.
want to, have the kids wake up on Christmas or have Christmas Eve, however you celebrate, if you Hanukkah, whatever. But I
Yeah.
want that tradition. But if you start with and tell them what you want, you're
Mhm.
going to get a better response.
Mhm.
And even if it can't happen that year, maybe that year we're not going to stay
Right.
home, but we're on the same path. And when we go to in-laws or grandmas or grandpas, we're going to start talk about next year. We're going to start doing something different. And you guys can come our way if you want.
Right.
So there's the art of negotiation and the art of pausing is important
Yeah. Yeah.
for the long game because we're
Love
in
that
this
you
for the
keep
long
bringing
haul.
it. Well, I just love that you keep bringing it back to instead of saying you. I think that's so huge when you're communicating, especially something that's going to be a hard conversation is, keeping it's about them, but it's not about bashing them. It's about, these are the things that I am trying to communicate, or these are the things that I'm seeing or I'm feeling. And it just takes that wall right down. But as soon as you say you, it's like this huge wall comes up and you're just like, what do you mean? And then you get on the defense,
Yes, yes.
you completely
And
get on the defense.
right. And I think we have to realize that we have a preference, but our preference isn't necessarily the absolute right way. Right? And
What do you
so,
mean? I'm just
well,
kidding.
it's just between you, me, and all your listeners. We won't let them know that, right? Okay. But it really is that we have a preference and that's not working for us.
Mhm.
Some other person in that relationship with your spouse or partner might be okay with it. They
Mhm.
wouldn't have a problem. So it's important that we communicate how we are or how it impacts us. It starts with I.
Yeah.
The other thing when we're throwing out these are killer words to be using. That gives you a lot of power. So we don't use the why because it puts people on guard. But the other two things is the absolutes.
Mm.
Those send a conversation off on a data hunt. If I say, Martine, you never ask me how you never tell me how I look in the morning. You just ask me, how you doing? How am I looking? Oh, that's so
Right.
beautiful. Okay,
Right.
okay, out we go. And I said, oh, yes, I do compliment you. I just told you the other day, you looked really nice in that new sweater I bought you.
Mm.
And like, oh, okay, 1 out of 1,000,000. Now we're on this data
Tit for
hunt.
tat. Yeah.
Right, right. So always and never are absolutes that you can get creative. It's got to like tweak the brain a little bit, but if you think like usually opens it up. You usually, you know, skip compliment me or I rarely get a compliment on how I look. Those
Mm.
are more realistic words.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we have to dig a little deeper to find a better word, but I can guarantee you that the always and the nevers start the biggest data hunt. And people they'll drop mentally out of the conversation and they'll go retrieve in their brain situations, very specific situations that they did what you said they don't do.
Right. Yeah.
and then they, and
So
then
they're
now
back
we
to
find out
proving and
that,
protecting, right? Back to
right.
proving and
Yeah. Proving
protecting
protecting.
themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. That's good. I like that. I'm
Yeah.
gonna steal that. It's brilliant, Martine.
Yes. Yes. You can take that for sure.
Yeah.
So I have one more question that I wanted to ask
Sure.
you about. So we've had a conversation. Let's just say we've had a conversation about any topic,
Mhm.
and the points have been made. How long before someone is supposed to revisit that? And there may not be a magic number here, but
Mhm.
haven't started to see some changes in the right direction. Like, how
Mhm.
long do you go before you come back to that same topic? Because you don't want to nag, right? But if
Mhm. Right.
you voice your concerns, you voice things. I know someone's listening, like, I've said it 100 times and he's still not, or the child is
Mhm.
still not. Like, how long in between conversations would you say someone should go before they readdress it?
I think that timing is important. All right. So I'm going to kind of sidestep around. I think timing is really important. If in the moment they fail to do something that you're doing, that's not the time to go, aha, type of thing. I got you. See, you never take the trash out and you got the finger going. So I think timing is important. And going back to when I talked about having couples have like weekly touch bases and monthly touch bases. If I've made an ask, like I really would appreciate that on a regular basis, you come out and help me in the kitchen so that we can shut the kitchen down.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not seeing that happening. They started a couple days and then it's kind of dropped off. One, in that moment, if it's not an end of a long day and timing's important, to say, would you help me in the kitchen? Or I'm confused. I thought you were going to help me in the kitchen. Might be a casual thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you might find in them, yes, I am. I've just got to go do something else like that. But definitely at the end of the week, say, let's talk about how this went this past week. I had asked for some extra help in the kitchen and it's feeling like it started off good. See, it's feeling, it's feeling, it's not fact. Okay. Because fact will get the funding. I'm feeling like it started off good, but it seems like it's slowing down. What are your thoughts? And they may have changed their mind. They may have dropped off. They may have a different definition of what helping you in the kitchen looked like. And they thought they had helped. So the quicker you can do a recovery, the sooner you can get back on track and the better people feel about it. If we wait a whole 30 days type of situation or 60 days and we've done data tracking on our own, then we feel more like it's been a test instead of a request.
That's good. Okay. Yeah, that's really good. I love that.
Okay. All right. So I just kind of trust your gut. And if you've made a request and you're needing the extra help, it doesn't hurt to make the request again. It might be, the other day when I asked for more help and stuff like that, because I get tired at the end of the day and I want to sit down with you too. This is kind of one of those moments. Would you be able to be helping me in the kitchen? Yeah. So that may have to cue them up. And I know I hear people like, I'm not their mother. They should know better.
Right.
When I ask them to pick things up, I don't have to I need those coffee cups, I need this, and you busted plates, but you didn't get the salt and pepper, and you didn't get the napkins, and you didn't wipe it down. Okay, I get that. But in the interim, in the beginning, as you're asking for something new, you want to give them some grace, and success is built in small increments. And so we want to be the success habits. And even to say, hey, the first 3 days, it was awesome. I felt so good. I got out of the kitchen in like 10 minutes because you were there helping me. And now it's kind of dragging on and I miss that. Could you help me?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally received completely different when you say it that way, and it's, celebrating what has been done and then just sharing just a little bit that extra that needs, the extra help that's needed. So I love that. Well, we could talk for probably 2 hours about this topic and about other topics as well. I'd love to have you back on the show, maybe to talk about parenting. But if you had an opportunity to, talk to all the mompreneurs of the world for just a few minutes, like what's one thing you would want to make sure they understood about being a mompreneur? Being
a mompreneur is awesome. And it's exciting and it's often draining, very draining. And it can be very discouraging if your spouse, your partner, or other people think, well, you're just home. You're just not doing anything, right? You're just
sitting on the couch watching bonds.
Right. Yeah. It's not very hard. So So I said, recognize you're showing up strong. You're doing the things that's best for you. You're creating a beautiful legacy and lesson for if you have kids or other women out there to realize that we can do it, but we're not superwomen. All right. And so we have, pillars of energy and focus. Because back in my world, if you ever want to go Google a book that just put more guilt on a woman, it's called Superwoman, The Superwoman. And it was all about, it's like in the 80s. And that was a big push. And talk about putting drain and guilt and pressure because we were supposed to do it all. Dress sexy, have work, give birth to kids, chauffeur, cook real meals, the whole thing. It doesn't exist. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So we pick our focus and we pick our energy. We ask each other for help. And you can have a business, you can have a great relationship, but it takes work. It takes staying on top of it. And I'm just so proud of where women are, and the quality and the impact they're bringing to the world is huge, and the families. So, yay.
Yeah. I know. Right. And we need that. They need that community, and we need that encouragement, because on a lot of days we just feel like we're just not measuring up, So I appreciate you kind of sharing that encouragement, because they need to hear it. We all need to hear it. Even the most confident, successful women still need to hear, hey, you matter, right? You're doing a great job. You're not perfect, but you're doing a great job.
Right. I love it. And that was a hint of isolation, right? If you're not feeling it, or you're struggling, reach out to the community, reach out to, to this group, because so often we think it's just us, and we tend to keep, especially if you look at social media, and not measuring up type of thing. So, now, we choose well and choose wisely for our spouses or partners. Choose wisely and choose well for the women in your world and the community in your group, and share there and support each other.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. We're going to include, links. I think you said you had a freebie, so we'll be sure to include that in the show notes, and the links to wherever people can follow you. Is there a best place for them? We'll put it in the show notes, but do you want to speak it also? Like, where can they connect with you?
Sure. I'm at Dr. Liz Jenkins on Facebook. Okay. And then on Instagram, it's @Dr.Liz_Jenkins. So I hang out there on a regular basis. And I think in the show notes, there's going to be some information about if you want to talk one-on-one. I have a complimentary connection call, so people can just hop on there. They can share your situation, and I'll give you some tips and some takeaways that you can, be strategize and be actionable. Yeah. And there's also fun things. If you want to reconnect with your spouse, your partner, I've got my weekend reconnect, or I have a Smart Couples Restart program. You can join me. But
that's awesome. Those are awesome. So whether whether you again, you're like, I just want to make my marriage better, I want to make my relationships better, or we're kind of in a bad place. I feel sure that Dr. Liz Jenkins is a great resource and a great person to help you with that. So this was so fun. And again, I'd love to have you back on the show to talk about parenting, because that's another really, really hard job.
Right. I love it. It is. And if anyone's looking for those last minute gifts or whatever, or you're going to start the date nights as Martine, and you're doing such a great job on it. There's a weekend reconnect, and I built it for two ways. If we had that luxury of going away for a long weekend, you can do it. But the reality is, it's going to be small, bite-sized date night moments. And so I've got it broken into little videos on topics, communication, conflict, all that intimacy, and little videos with me, and some fun handouts, worksheets. So you can take those with you to the restaurant, to the park, to wherever, and be having a focused, invested, connected date night with your spouse or your partner. So
I love that. That. Y'all need to go grab that for sure, because we need to make time. We make time for what matters most. We don't find the time, we make time. So thank you so much again for being on the show. And
no problem. Thank you. I loved it.
It was awesome.
Chatting kids next time.
Yes. Well, thank you all for tuning in today, and I will catch you on the next episode. Well, that's a wrap, friends, for this week's episode of the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. Thank you so much for listening and for following the show. It means so much to me. And listen, friend, sharing is caring. So if you loved this episode and thought of some fellow mompreneurs who could benefit, send them the link. Share this episode, or take a screenshot and head on over to Instagram and share and tag me at Martine31Williams. We are connected on Instagram, right? It's where you will get all the fun behind the scenes of my life and business as a mompreneur. Until next time, know that I am believing in you always.